Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am Graham Hughes, and you are watching Morning Brew on Politics Social. It is Monday, the 12th of May, 2025. Well done on making it this far. Big shout out to my friends in the chat here. We have, who have we got? We've got Reagan Elise in there. We've got Alistair. We've got Chris C as well. We've got Veg Pie. Good morning, everyone. BAFTAs last night. Deleted comment about Loser Fox. We've got Phil Crossy in there saying good morning, everyone. This is all good. We've got Janeway is in there. Hello, Janeway. How you doing? Captain Janeway is in there as well. I am just trying to make it so I can actually comment on stuff in the chat here, which is going to take me a moment. Sorry. This is what happens when I foolish mortal, decide to have a little bit of an adventure, and there you go. That's all right now, and produce on someone else's channel. I have to re-sign in onto YouTube. Right, so we've done that now. Welcome. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat here, all you need to do is hit that subscribe button and wait for a minute, and then you can opine freely. Well, kind of. I say freely. That's a lie. You can't be a dick. Don't be a dick. Don't say horrible things. Don't be a troll. Because if you are a troll, we will mute you and boot you. Right, let's get down to it. Oh, God. Labour's new immigration policy, eh? Ah, mate. What are your thoughts? Let's get into it, right? So Labour's got a white paper coming out. This is a dramatic and a drastic shift in tone and policy when it comes to migration into the UK. And this is because of Nigel Farage, one horrible, little, racist, narcissistic, privately educated toff who wants to destroy Britain. He's done a very good job so far. He has cost the British taxpayer billions upon billions of unpaid tax, because we haven't had the trade, we haven't had the growth of our economy since he basically decided in 2010 to start making the EU the bête noire of the United Kingdom, the thing that we should all be scared of and hate for some reason. And since then, the economy hasn't grown. Overall, our economy hasn't grown since 2007. Our population has. Economy, no. There was a super chat before we even got started. Oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, yes, there was from Yvonne. Sorry, it didn't come up on my feed for some reason. Thank you very much to Yvonne. If this was done at the end of World War II, this country would die. If the language test was done, my late parents would be forced to die in Nigeria. Thank you for the super chat, Yvonne. And you're absolutely right. This is madness. We're really going to get into it. It's Labour's announced a major immigration shake-up, a 69-page white paper. So 69 papers, focused on tightening legal migration routes. This marks a deliberate pivot away from Labour's long-standing position that immigration supports economic growth, which it absolutely does. The framing is now around rewarding contribution, integration and control, echoing far-right populist talking points. Not great at all. So this smacks of Labour pressing the Reform UK, the refuck panic button. The Starmer's announcement comes just days after refuck outpolled the Tories and made major local election gains, including here in Durham, where they've taken over the city council, or the county council, actually. And while insiders claim that the policy has been in development for months, the timing makes it look like a reactive, panicked concession to Farage and Farage-style politics. It's an Overton Window shift to the right, and it looks politically opportunistic. But in my view, I think it's strategically dangerous, and I think that a lot of people watching this would agree with that. And let's get into that. I mean, you've got public opinion versus political mythology. The polling shows that most voters are worried about illegal immigration. This white paper is about legal migration, okay? The workers, students, spouses, the public wildly overestimates the amount of illegal immigration into this country, believing that 50%, more than 50% of immigration is illegal when it's not. It's like less than 10%, if that. Labour is responding to hysteria, not facts. And it is legitimising the misinformation that's out there by validating the logic of that misinformation. And you've got here the language of populism coming out. Farage without the pint. You get phrases like, settlement must be earned, not a right, and people should commit to learning our language. And that's lifted straight out of UKIP, Brexit, refuck, whatever the horrible, toxic man-baby, that the tapeworm that is Farage is infecting at the moment. It's the rhetoric of grievance and suspicion. This isn't good. This is not a mile away from Theresa May's go-home vans that she had driven around London for some reason. It's now cloaked in this reasonable centralist garb. And by adopting it, Labour's not neutralising reform. It's strengthening it. It is totally strengthening it, going, yeah, they're right. What Labour should be doing is saying, no, they're wrong. And this is the false choice between compassion and control. Starmer and Yvette Cooper see this, the Home Secretary, see this as a controlled, selective and fair. But the message to the voters is quite simple. Like, most people aren't paying attention, getting on with their lives. And now they're going to see Labour going, oh yeah, immigrants are a problem. After years and years of right-wing bile from the privately educated gobshites that run everything in this country. The Labour lot are going, yeah, they've got a point though, haven't they? When they haven't. And what Labour should be doing is challenging this narrative, challenging this scapegoating narrative, but instead they're amplifying it. You know, they're alienating the very communities that helped them win in the last election. And then you've got the fallout from Brexit and this immigration dependency myth. Starmer has argued that Britain is over-reliant on migration due to a failed free market experiment, but the narrative ignores the Brexit-shaped hole in the UK labour force, which was caused by Farage. Like, Farage created this problem, and now he's saying that he's the only one who can fix it, which is like a con man posing as a lawyer to get back the money that very same con man has conned you out of. You know, these gaps in the UK labour market in care, hospitality, health were created by us pulling out of the EU. EU where you had mostly young people coming over without their families, without thinking they were going to stay here for the rest of their lives, working for a few years in their 20s and then returning back to Poland or to Romania or Spain or Italy or wherever they're from in this continent, as most people do. Most people stay at home. Most people don't travel the world and go places unless they absolutely have to. Same with British people. They go, oh, I'm going to go to Dubai, and they go over there and they have a few great I'll say great, but, you know, fairly comfortable tax-free years. But then it's too hot. And they can't do the thing. They can't go to the footy each week. They can't have a season ticket. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's reasons why people come back. And that's true of wealthy people coming, you know, emigrating. But then you've got people who are coming from developing nations for whom this is far and away better than what they perceive as the situation back home. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes people actually hate it here, but feel obliged to work here and send remittances back to their family, wherever they are. They're seen as the breadwinner to bring in money from another country into Nigeria or into Bangladesh or somewhere where their family lives. And so that's a drain. That's a drain where people are sending money out of our country into someone else's country, which, you know, it's fair enough in the whole sort of global coming together of humanity, I don't really have that much of a problem with it. But if you're going to look at the sort of the basic economics of it, people coming over from Europe for a few years and then going back was a lot better for our economy than people coming over and staying here and having kids, and those kids using our resources and coming to our schools and using the NHS. I'm using the language of the sort of the mentality of the people who don't want immigrants to come in. Like, I've got no problem with it. I'm like, okay, fair enough. But if we're going to have immigrants, then let's do it in the most sensible way possible for our economy to try and recover. But it's a double blow, isn't it? Because you've got Brexit, and then you've got this situation, and you've got the ticking time bomb of there's loads more older people than there are younger people. Our birth rate is now what? The fertility rate is 1.4. Need to be at 2.1 to maintain the population. So who's going to look after the old people? We keep asking this, and I'm going to really get into this because it's one of the things that pisses me off on a couple of levels. But first of all, Jürgen Splurgen, who's got the best name ever, thank you very much. Immigration changes won't reduce refux support. Cuts to PIP, work from home, and NHS job cuts is handing power to Farage. Why is Keir Starmer being a plank about this? I don't know. They're looking at the polls and going, people are concerned about migration. And instead of tackling it, grabbing the bull by the horns, which is what Starmer needs to do right now, they're not. They made the same mistake with the last leader about Brexit. They needed to tackle it, but grab the bull by the horns and say, this is bullshit. This is a Tory flagship policy that's going to make the poorest in our society poorer, which it did. Asperger's Europe, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. How long until the government turns its attention to illegal emigration due to brain drain from the UK to Europe? Might exit visas be introduced? Well, I hope not. I don't think there's too many people illegally emigrating. I know people outstay their visas and stuff, but that's something that you can deal with. And then Joanna says, some of us do leave for a bit. As I've said before, I moved to France for 2-3 years, but I came back, just missed the UK. Yeah, Joanna, I've lived around the world. I lived in Australia. I lived in Panama. I lived, I lived out my backpack for 4 years traveling. And yeah, there is a draw of home that everybody has. You talk to refugees, and I've talked to a lot of refugees over the years, coming from not just places like Ukraine, but also in places in the Middle East, Libya, Syria. I travelled with Syrian refugees across Lake Nasser and also across the Mediterranean, and they all spoke of wanting to go home. As soon as this is over, as soon as Assad is out the way, or Gaddafi is out the way, or Putin or whoever is stops invading their country, they'll go home. That's quite normal. That's very normal. That's where their friends are. That's where they feel most comfortable. But for the few people who do want to live here, fine, make them feel welcome. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this again? And this sort of, the English language test. I mean, is this a dog whistle or is it policy? Like, okay, you need to speak pretty good English, but most people do. And there's very few people that don't speak any English whatsoever. I mean, I all hear anecdotes about people who lived here for 20 years, never learned the language. But the reality is that they're vanishingly small. That's a vanishingly small number of the population. And it sticks out because it's so unusual. You think, oh, yeah, you speak a bit of English. But then this reeks of hypocrisy because British people go around the world and they colonize and they emigrate. And do they ever bother learning the indigenous language of the country that they moved to? Do they? Hell. Go and ask Isabel Oakeshit how much bloody Arabic she's learnt in her last few months that she's been living in Dubai because the tax regime is better for millionaires over there. Privately educated millionaires such as Isabel Oakeshit. She hated immigrants so much she became one. Very strange, very strange. But yeah, the fact is that, like, you don't need to be able to speak English to an A-level equivalent. And this is what's maddening. Like, a lot of English people can't speak English to an A-level equivalent, and yet they're still given all of the protections of the state, of the NHS, of being able to have that free education up to the age of 18. And yet, this is, rather than, concentrate on helping people in this country to get better qualifications, to learn English better, to learn maths better, or to learn whatever it is they need to get on in life better, we're going, oh no, we got to make sure that the people coming over here from other countries are the creme de la creme. And I've got to get into this because this is something that really, really pisses me off. Because all the fun jobs, as I keep reiterating time and time again, are absolutely hogged by the private school mafia. Go to privateschoolmafia.com, scroll down that list. Look at all the fun, well-paying jobs. Look at all the millionaires on that list. Look at all the successful entrepreneurs on that list. The ones who came from money and then went on to make more money. People don't come from money. The odds are stacked against them. The odds are never in their favour. So if we invite only people from other countries who have got degrees, who have got like PhDs, who can speak English to an A-level standard, they're going to take the few top jobs that are available to the rest of us who didn't go to private school. So I'm like, if we're going to have people coming over and doing work, can we have them doing work that doesn't present competition to our aspirations? People who didn't go to private school. That's my take on it. If we have vacancies in the NHS, I have no problem whatsoever with people coming from Nigeria, from Ghana, from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, from any of the 56 Commonwealth nations around the world, 55 excluding the UK. 55 nations, fine, brilliant, bring it on. I have no problem with it whatsoever. I've got more of a problem with creating, not just taking away opportunities for us in our country, but also creating a brain drain in other countries. Do you think that Nigeria doesn't need PhD educated doctors? Like the people, researchers, scientists? Do you think that Nigeria doesn't need them? Do you think that Bangladesh doesn't need them? Of course they do. We're taking their brightest and best. It's just, this is imperialism 2.0. Instead of going over there and stealing all their resources, we're inviting all of their most precious resources over. And this is what, I don't think people sort of get, I guess. We are the most precious resource. Humans. Forget your oil. Forget your gold. Forget your trinkets. Forget your rare earth materials, right? What a country's real worth is the people who make up that country. And if we're poaching the brightest and best, where does that leave them? I would rather that we had people coming to do the jobs that we have vacancies in. But Labour's not going down that route. Labour's going, no, you need a degree, you need to speak English to an A-level standard. It's just, this is crazy. And the new rules that adult dependents pass progressively harder English. This isn't even the people who are applying to come here and work. This is their dependents. This is their kids. And the practical result is families will be torn apart over paperwork. And a coded message to nativist voters that the government is gatekeeping Britishness. And it's a cultural test, not an economic one. And this rhetoric of restoring control, it's indistinguishable from the Tories' playbook. In some cases, Labour goes even further, denying visas for care workers, which even the Tories didn't do, because they recognised that we needed care workers over here. It's a page out of the Conservative script, but with a bloody red rosette on it. If you're wondering, it's 1660. Okay, ban private education in the UK. I couldn't agree more, mate. That's from Chris C. Pete's music, veg pie, the laugh, as the French call it, peasant fare for big hearty stews. By the way, I'm not a vegetarian, but I'm off my chops. Kate says, agreed, there should be a separate education system. There should not be a separate education system for the rich. Absolutely. And it's true. Labour are aping the policies of the right and hoping to somehow make it work. I'm just going to add a little goal here, and let's have a go. 30 minutes. No, let's go 30 minutes. I'll extend the show. So if you want me to rabbit on a bit longer, we'll put a super chat goal up there for you. There you go. Woohoo. Okay, so what's in the white paper? So first of all, longer wait from settlement is going to go up from 5 years to 10 years. Foreign workers will no longer be eligible for settlement after 5 years. They must now wait a full decade. This adds a layer of insecurity to workers' lives, effectively turning the UK into a revolving door of precarious labour. The idea is to discourage long-term migration while still benefiting from cheap temporary labour, which is classic exploitation politics or policies. Care workers' visas are going to be slashed with no alternative plan as yet. If someone wants to explain to me what the alternative plan is, maybe I could have a chat with Phil about this. But overseas recruitment for care homes is being axed entirely, despite the sector having 150,000 vacancies at least. Labour claims that employers should recruit from within the UK or extend existing care visas. But there's no funding increase. There's no training program. There's no transitional period. The result will be immediate, catastrophic staffing shortages in a sector already on its knees. Have they not thought of this? Surely they've thought of this. I don't understand how we've got to this point. I really want to talk to someone from Labour about this because I just don't understand it. I just don't get it. Katrina Tam, thank you very much. Member for 4 months. Hey, just a little thank you. You're the best. Coming up there. Wonder if this counts for the milestone. What's the milestone? And Katrina says 5 minutes behind so far. Just put it on double speed. Sound like this. Hey. Anyway, so yeah. There's no the fact there's no funding increase and there's no training program. It just blows my mind. And then the next point is this English test that I've been talking about. So all adults, this is in the white paper, all adults accompanying foreign workers, i.e. spouses or family, must pass a series of escalating English language tests. A1 basic before arrival, A2 to extend the visa, and B2, which is like A-level, to settle permanently. While framed as immigration policy, this is actually a bureaucratic filter to reduce migration by stealth. It also disproportionately harms people from war-torn countries and those with poorer educational backgrounds, as particularly women. This seems like an attack on women in particular, because if a man gets a job over here and their wife comes over as well, and they come from a developing nation, yeah, the man might be able to speak English at a very good level for the job, but the wife might not be able to. What are you going to do? You're going to split up the family? You're going to send the wife back to a country that suffers from internal strife or refugee crisis of its own? It just seems a bit cruel. But then the cruelty is the point in a lot of these anti-migrant sentiments. You see that with Trump. You see that with Brexit. Splitting up families actually got Brexiteers off. They would get really sexually excited about the idea of divorces happening and kids having to share time between their mum and their dad living in different countries. Not because they don't love each other, but because of a result of the Brexit paperwork that was put in place by the upper echelons that never will be affected by Brexit paperwork. They can live and work anywhere they like in the world. They can marry anyone they want to in the world. You can't. Unless you got the money. You can't. When I had when I had an Australian girlfriend, she lived over in the UK for 6 years. She was here on an ancestral visa for 4 years, and she was on a working visa for 2 years, or a young person's visa for 2 years. And we had to decide whether we were going to live together in Australia or live together in the UK, and both were incredibly problematic by the time we got around to sort of sorting that out, because even though she was a native English speaker, and even though she was qualified, basically, if she was to stay in this country, I had to, at the time, be earning, I think it was like £18,000 a year, £18,600 a year, which that's more than I've ever earned in a year. And the Tories have put that up. It's like 38,600 now. So I have to be earning that to have a foreign spouse living with me in this country. And that's a thing that the Tories put in place. It's just absolutely disgusting, because it just means that if you're rich, you can marry someone from anywhere. You can fall in love with anyone. Whereas if you're not rich, you can't, and you have to split up, as me and my Australian girlfriend did. Something that I'll never, ever, ever forgive the Tories for. It wasn't the only reason, but there was a big reason. Ivan, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. I'm living proof that it's not just the elderly who need carers. I'm 40 and I need carers. Thank you so much for the super chat, Ivan. That's a really good point that you make. Veg Pie says, I'm going to see Wes Streeting tonight. Oh my God, Veg. I can't say what I'd like you to do. In Matt Ford's The Political Party live broadcast, what questions should I ask him in the Q&A? So if someone in the chat wants to respond to Veg Pie of what they would like Veg Pie to ask, I know we have some trans people watching. If you would like to say, a question, please be my guest, because he really needs to be taken to task on his violent transphobia. So a question that will absolutely skewer him. Put it in the comments, please. Make him look like an absolute kipper, a UKipper. So this is also, going back to the white paper, the fourth thing they're talking about is deportation expansion. So this is every crime, every time. The Home Office will now be notified of all foreign nationals convicted of crimes, not just those sentenced to prison. This vastly expands the pool of people eligible for deportation, including minor offences. This is the kind of one strike and you're out policy that ignores due process and encourages xenophobic policing of migrant communities. If you think about it like this, if you have a particular beef with people who are foreign, as some people in this country do, why not bring facetious charges against people, ring up the police and accuse them of doing something that they didn't do, or there's no proof that they can't really prove that they haven't done, and they get charged with a crime and then they get deported even though they haven't actually done anything. That worries me. That worries me a lot. And then you've got the strategic skills only visas, which is work visas. I spoke earlier about this, which will be severely restricted to jobs deemed strategically important, such as health, AI, and engineering. If you're a chef, cleaner, care worker, construction labourer, good luck. But we need those. We need construction workers. We need lots of construction workers to build the 1.5 million houses that Labour want to build. This undermines the entire industries reliant on what they call low-skilled labour. They're not low-skilled. They are not low-skilled. They are very, very hard working jobs that you have to get right, because if you fuck up, if you're a nurse, you can kill someone. If you're building something, you can make the building have a critical problem in the building, which causes the building to collapse, which kills people. So, these are life and death jobs. And people say, oh, it's low skilled. It's low skilled. It's no skilled. It's not. It's not. I think that moving bloody spreadsheets around is a low skilled job. Personally, I think that working on Excel and not knowing all its functions is a low skilled job. Using it as a piece of paper. And it undermines entire industries here. And the government is talking up skills investment, but providing no actual funding to retain the domestic workforce. And you're seeing people with skills leaving. If we're going to get skilled people coming over from another country, let's steal them from America. I really don't want us to steal them from developing countries for the very reason that it causes this brain drain, which I really disagree with. I think there's a level where we can say, okay, we can, for each individual country, there's a number of people that we can bring over for professions such as carers and nurses. But when it comes to the higher echelons, I think there needs to be a cap on that, because upper echelons, that's a bad way of putting it. For the how do you put this without sounding like a dickhead? Oh no, higher skilled jobs. But for jobs that require higher qualifications, such as being a surgeon, such as being a brain surgeon, I don't think that we should be depriving Kenya of its 7 specialist pediatric brain surgeons. Do you know what I mean? America could do without a few of them, I guess, because it doesn't seem to like anyone who seems to know what they're doing over there at the moment. But other countries, I just think it contributes to the brain drain the blame game and the brain drain. And I see it as imperialistic plunder. We're not plundering the gold anymore. We're plundering the other resources, the human resources. Isn't that just as bad? Isn't that what we should be focusing on here? But no, instead of focusing on that, we're focusing on people coming over here to look after the old people and help build the homes that we need for the people who can't get on the housing ladder because the average house price is like £270,000 now. It's just ridiculous. Katrina, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Yeah, caught up. It's much less stressful listening at normal speed rather than double speed. I can imagine. And then the employers must prove domestic recruitment first. So companies that can't demonstrate that they've tried to hire from the UK first will lose rights to sponsor foreign workers. This is reminiscent of the failed British jobs for British workers slogan under Gordon Brown. It creates a compliance nightmare for employers and assumes that there's a ready and willing UK labour force. There isn't, particularly not for underpaid jobs, and it gives credence to this lie that there's loads of people in Britain who could be doing these jobs who are just sitting on their arse because it's better to be on the dole than it is to actually work. Which, again, it's like the people who don't speak a word of English. If you know someone who wants to sit on the couch all day, play PlayStation, and just claim the dole, and they're happy with that, great. But those people are few and far between. They're less than 1% of the population. And that's why they stick out in your head so much. If it was more ubiquitous, it wouldn't stick out in your head so much. Because you're like, oh my God, that's how they want to live their life. Yeah, that's how they want to live their life. You're always going to have a freeloader problem. In any given situation, you're going to have a freeloader problem. But what you do to sort out the fact that the people who want to work, who can't, is you facilitate them to work. If you're disabled, working from home is an absolute godsend. Obviously, ableist fuckwits like Nigel Farage is going off on one about working from home. Trump does this as well. Oh, no one's working from home. He works in the fucking White House. That's working from home. These Tories, when they were in power, they were working from 10 Downing Street. That was working from home. Running around going, oh, people shouldn't work from home. Boris Johnson literally worked from home. But if you're disabled, working from home is an absolute fucking godsend. If you find, if you're in a wheelchair and you want to work, you want to do your job, how much harder is it for you to get to and from work if you need to go to an actual office to do the job at a computer, connect to the internet, having Skype calls with people in other offices around the country or even around the world? What's more difficult? Doing that every day, spending 2 hours getting to work, getting 2 hours, getting on the bus in a wheelchair, getting in the back of a taxi on the wheel, the cost of a taxi, or having to drive yourself with a specially modified car. Or take my partner, for instance, Catherine. She's deaf. And so she can't use the phone. And when she's in a meeting, it's absolutely exhausting. Now, imagine you're watching this, right? And there's no subtitles. At the moment, there's subtitles. You can turn the subtitles on. I always make sure there's subtitles on all my stuff, right? And there's no subtitles. And you can't hear what I'm saying. Okay, so turn the volume right down. And the only thing you've got to be able to suss out what I'm saying is the movement of my lips. And then think about having to do that with people you're unfamiliar with in a room where there's 12 people, they're all talking over each other, there's light behind people, so they're kind of silhouetted, there's sun behind them, and maybe they've got a beard which obscures their mouth, or maybe they're speaking with a different accent, so they've got a Scottish accent, so they say their E's as their A's, and they say their A's as their A's, and so you can't really tell. You've got to try and suss out what they're saying. Every single word in real time is like doing a cryptic fucking crossword. That's what it's like being in an in-person meeting if you're deaf. Or you can work from home and have fucking subtitles come up on Zoom or on Meet or on Google or on Microsoft Teams. What's easier? Working from home. And this is why the ableist gobshites like Farage hate it so much. This is why Tice is going, we're going to stop working from home. Everyone in the council is not going to work from, because they want to stop disabled people from working. So that then they can say, oh, look at these lazy people who aren't where they could work, they could do a job. Look, this disabled person was doing this job. Yeah, they were doing the job and they could work from home. Now they have to go to the office every day, can't do that job. You've literally shut that job that they can perfectly do from home. You've taken that off them. Because of this. It is ableism, pure ableism. It's just a hatred of disabled people. It's the same mindset that led the Nazis to kill disabled people. It's the same mindset that led Idi Amin to murder hundreds, thousands of disabled people in Uganda in the 70s during his reign of terror. Hilgara, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. It's not great, but honestly, we're toast in Durham if the PM doesn't try. The fools who say delete them in the channel are happy, by the way, which is good. The fools who say delete them in the channel are happy by this, which is good. I mean, do you mean by that the people who are saying that we should throw people in the water? Is that what you mean? Or do you mean this channel is in? Sorry, Hilgar, I didn't really understand what that meant, but thank you very much for the super chat anyway. But we are toast in Durham if Labour don't get their finger out, and they really do need to do that. So yeah, this is not great, and then we've got the there's still no safe route for refugees, despite talk of control and compassion. There were zero proposals for humanitarian pathways for people who are not coming from Ukraine, so therefore not white, to come here as a refugee. Ministers argue that there are already multiple legal routes, but in reality, safe access has shrunk dramatically. There's nothing here for asylum seekers, displaced families, or those facing persecution in this new white paper on immigration. Like, it should definitely be part of it. And one of the things that I keep saying time and time again is we need a processing centre set up in Calais, and we have a deal with the French, and it says that if we catch someone coming across in a small boat across the channel, we have a right to send them back to the processing centre in Calais, where their claim can be processed. And if their claim is given the thumbs up, then great, they get asylum in the UK. We bring them over, they can get on the ferry, they can fly if they want. They don't need to get on a rickety boat with a dinghy with their children. We can actually bring them over in a safe and humanitarian and compassionate way. And then they can work from day one. One of the other things that we do with asylum seekers in this country, we don't let them work. We don't let them work. They sit here for 3 years, not letting them work. Meanwhile, the person who owns the hotel where they're being put in, they get loads of money. That's great for them. Friends of the Tories, usually. The system's set up to make people hate immigrants. The system's set up to make people hate asylum seekers, and also to make being a migrant and being an asylum seeker in this country as miserable as humanly possible. It's like the worst of all possible worlds. Thank you very much to Ivan for the £10 super chat, my friend. That's very kind of you. I think people who say only elderly people need carers are underplaying the situation. It's not a true picture. I'm 40 and I need carers, and many young people younger than me need carers. Yeah. And also, I think you're right, Ivan, that the fact is that there are a lot of people who, without those carers coming in, can't contribute to society in a way that they would have a lot, they would have wanted to. And the more support that we can give people, especially people who are suffering from mental health problems, physical health problems, the more help we can give them, the more help they can give back in return in the long run. But if we're just letting people leaving them to it, so to speak, we're not creating a better society for them, and we're not creating a better society in general. And there are, there are ways and means of making things more accessible to everybody that we just don't do, that people just don't even think about, because they don't go through diversity training, and they're not told that a deaf person can't use the phone. Obviously. So if you're dealing with someone who's deaf and you say to them, "Oh, just give us a call and we'll sort that thing out," they're like, "I can't. I'm deaf." Your system is set up in such a way that you can only get into your bank account, you can only get into your, you can only sort out your delivery times by phone rather than by email. It means that you cut out a huge chunk of the population who can't do that. Just make things accessible. Reasonable adjustments. That's all people are asking. Moya Man, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Seems IRL requirements impact spouses and dependents of British citizens each extension equals £3,500 approximately. I'll be bankrupt if I have to do this 3 more times. That is crazy, Moya, and I'm so sorry to hear that. That is just so shit. The way that the government have gone with this. I think they should be going 100% in the other direction. In the same way that we weren't going to win the war against the Brexiteers by going, oh, well, they've got a point. I give the EU 7 out of 10. Yeah, it is a mechanized Frankenstein if you think about it. We're not going to win this by going along with the racists. By going, oh, what do the racists think? Let's go with the racists on side. Let's get the xenophobes on side. Yeah, that'd be great. Let's do that. It doesn't work. It simply doesn't work. It just empowers the racists. Makes them think they're right. Shifts the Overton window to the right. They should be fighting against it. When it was Brexit, the leader of the Labour Party should be screaming from the rooftops that it was a terrible idea that would make the poorest people in this country even poorer. It would restrict the horizons for everyone who wasn't born with a silver spoon up their arse. Unfortunately, him and all his advisors were born with silver spoons up their respective arses. They couldn't emote. They couldn't think of the person who's sitting there going, why has my life not turned out the way I wanted it to? Why can't I get those jobs that I'd like to do? Why can't I work in film and TV? And instead of saying the answer, which is because you're working class, and only 8% of people who work in film and TV are working class. So good luck with that. Instead of saying, oh, the reason why you don't see yourself reflected in people running political parties is because nearly everyone who runs political parties in this country had a privileged upbringing. The Tories were just one privileged little shit after another becoming leader of the party. And instead of going, that's the reason, we need to put things in place to help people from poorer areas of any given city or rural area. We need to be putting things in place, reasonable adjustments to help them flourish. Now, it's easier to say the reason why you can't have those things is because the EU, trans people, single mothers, immigrants, blah, blah, fucking blah. Scapegoats. The reason is scapegoats. Instead of the actual fucking reason, which is that we live in a class-riddled society where the rich have everything and the rest of us fight each other over the scraps that fall from the table of the billionaires that run everything. They run everything. They run the water companies. They run the newspapers. They run the fucking government. And we're doing what we can on tiny shoestring budgets. But we're no match for the likes of the Daily Mail, owned by a billionaire, or Fox News and the Sun, owned by a billionaire. We're no match against Twitter or Facebook or Amazon, owned by billionaires. We try to do what we can, but the odds are not in our favour. They really aren't. And instead of pointing this out, your problems in your life are caused by billionaires' greed. We get the problems in your life are caused by immigrants or trans people. So like this the fact that there's no new safe route for refugees pisses me off so much. To claim refugee status in this country, you have to step foot on British soil. That's still the system. That's still the system to this day. Katrina Tam. Sorry, it's early. It's Monday morning. Here's a super chat to say you missed the super chat. Oh, thank you, Katrina. I actually saw the super chat before you sent the super chat, but thank you for reminding me I missed the super chat. Thank you. That's good, isn't it? I make a mistake and I get money for making a mistake. Maybe I should make more mistakes. Maybe that's how it works. Talk about failing upwards. Ivan, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. Not content with cutting disability, social security, bank account checks, and cutting further back on the access to work scheme, and they're now taking away our carers. As a Labour Party member, I'm livid. So am I. So am I, mate. So am I. My dad relies on carers coming to help him 4 times a day. He's bedbound. He's got dementia. His mind is gone. He's non-verbal. He can't do anything by himself. And the strain on my family, if we didn't have those carers coming in, would just be immense. And yeah, instead of the government looking at the situation and going, why is a private company profiting from Graham's dad's suffering? Why are they profiting? Why is this done by a private company? Why is a private enterprise making money out of this? Why is there some company registered at company's house posting profits for their shareholders or for the company owners so they can buy a new yacht while people suffer? Why are they taking taxpayers' money to pay for the care of my dad when my dad could be cared for by NHS nurses, NHS carers directly, without having a middleman making money for no reason other than we need middlemen, we need DJs, we need travel agents. That's just jobs that I don't think should exist anymore. I'm gonna piss off all the DJs now. Listen, we've got iPod shuffles now. Don't need you. Gonna piss off the travel agents. Oh, build your own holiday. Anyway, so moving on. I'm not moving on. I'm staying on this. Okay, so the next thing is digital surveillance of migrant status. A new digital tracking scheme. This is in the white paper. Will monitor overstaying and immigration compliance. Now, look, the only thing I get it, right? That we need some kind of controls on people outstaying their visas, because the vast majority of people who are here illegally, which is a thing, are the people who come here and overstay their visas. That's illegal, right? That's an illegal immigrant. Most of the people who do that are like from Australia and America and Canada. But a lot of the people who do that, I don't know if it's most, but a lot of people who do that. And that's classified as illegal migration. People coming here on boats is not illegal migration. They have a right to do that under the UN Declaration of Human Rights and under the 1951 Refugee Convention, updated in 1967 by the United Nations. They have a right to do that. They're not illegal. So when people say illegal migrants, they're actually, what they mean, it's not what they think, but what they mean is what they actually mean. Sorry, it's not what they're thinking of, but it's what they actually mean is people outstaying their visas. So, okay, so it sounds like a glorified spreadsheet, fair enough, but it does raise serious privacy and discrimination concerns, and it also smacks of another layer of the hostile environment policy, just perhaps with slicker branding. And then we've got the this think tank that Labour's setting up, a panel of industry experts, civil servants, and migration advisory migration advisory committee members to monitor dependency on foreign labour. This is a technocratic wallpaper designed to look like a serious policy while deflecting from the deeper contradiction, which is this, at the heart of all what Labour are doing. There's this contradiction. We need foreign workers. We need them. So putting a cap on them, making it more difficult to become a foreign worker and work over here is just nonsensical. If there were millions of people living on the streets, not working, who had come over from Pakistan, had come over from Ghana, had come over from Guyana, had come over from wherever in the Commonwealth, right? That would be something to go, oh shit, there's loads of people coming over from other countries and they're not working. This seeming problem that UKIP has invented is with people who are working, people who have got a job, people who are being sponsored by British companies to come over here and do work, which is just mind-blowing. And there's over 100,000. 100,000. We need one more super chat in the next 49 seconds in order to hit the goal. Just by the way. Digital surveillance won't stop with migrants, says Chris C. Yep, I agree. It's one of those, we're the most surveilled generation of all time. There's CCTV cameras everywhere. Facial recognition. Might be one of the reasons why there's hardly any serial killers anymore. One of the other reasons might be, there's not so many boomers. Moving on. So let's talk about the consequences here, the economic, social and economic fallout. This is a blow to the care sector. Vulnerable people will pay the price, as as Ivan has pointed out. Cutting international. Oh, Katrina, just in under the bar there. Thank you. Super chat literally just hit the milestone. Thank you so much, Katrina. That's very kind of you. And Ori dropped a quid in as well. And Alistair. Oh, thank you. It's a flood. Oh, wow. Alistair, Ori, Amy Walker, thank you all so much. That is very, very kind of you. And UK Medsy and Ivan Ambrose, thank you so much. UK Medsy, and also to Ivan Ambrose. That is all very, very, very kind of you. I just want to say, the viewers we have on this show, thank you. You're the best. You're the bestest. You're the bestest in the world. So let's get back into this. Let's get back into the vulnerable people paying the price. Cutting international recruitment for care roles will instantly worsen already bad staff shortages across elderly and disability care. These people, these are the people that society pretends to value, remember thank you carers, remember thank you NHS, but leaves to rot when political headlines mean more than human dignity. Unison calls it a cliff edge collapse, and I don't think they're wrong. The NHS will feel it too. The NHS isn't explicitly named in the crackdown, but the policies will create a hostile environment for overseas workers in health and social care. This will inevitably lead to fewer qualified workers coming who are willing to come and or stay in the UK if they can't come with their spouses, if they can't bring their children because their English isn't to the fucking level of A-levels. Deepening crisis in waiting times, closures and patient safety. It undermines economic growth, contrary to Labour's own past. Labour has historically accepted that immigration drives growth. Starmer's new plan scraps that consensus. Immigration doesn't just fill gaps, it creates demand. Cutting off that flow, especially in sectors that rely constantly on staffing, they rely on constant staffing, like the NHS, hospitality, logistics, construction, will push. It will choke, actually. It will choke GDP on growth, and it will push inflation higher. It will absolutely do that. It's a ridiculous thing to do. It hurts families and communities already in the UK. The new rules punish dependents, as we've spoken about. They need to get up to an A-level equivalent of being able to speak English. Dependents, families, anyone who hasn't mastered English by UK bureaucratic standards, it'll disproportionately affect women, carers, and people from marginalised backgrounds, further fragmenting families and turning integration into a gatekeeping exercise. Also, it's normalising the populist rhetoric of Farage as, Farage wins here without lifting a finger. Labour is using phrases like committing to integration, commitment to integration, settlement is a privilege, not a right. It is pure Farage's cosplay. And in the same way that Farage didn't need to win a majority to get his fucking EU fraudurendum, he's not had to win a majority in this case. He spooked the Tories back in 2013 by winning loads of council seats for the UKIP gobshite, and that pushed the Tories in the 2015 election into saying, "Oh, we're going to have an in-out referendum." That was as a response to Farage. They were trying to out-Farage Farage, and in the end, they ended up going right into this trap, right into the trap that wasn't really set up by Farage. It's giving him too much credit. He's not that smart, but his Russian handlers are. Hashtag just saying. It hands the Overton window to Farage and Reform, Refuck UK on a silver platter. They get the ideological win, and they can still accuse Labour of being too soft, because nothing Labour ever do will be enough for these racists. These racists want everyone who's not white, everyone who doesn't speak fluent English without a posh RP accent, to be driven into the sea. I wish the people who voted for them from this area realised that. They think that Farage speaks for them. He really doesn't. He speaks for the millionaires who have trouble getting a Coutts bank account. That's the people he speaks for. He speaks for the Kremlin. He speaks for international oligarchs. He speaks for people like Chris Benode, who made shitloads of money after crashing the pound during the fraudurendum. There's a picture of Farage like this, happy that the pound has collapsed. Happy man. You can't out-Farage, you just legitimise them. And this is also going to be a huge chill for international students and the UK's university sector in general. The university sector has suffered for a long time because the government said, right, we can't afford to pay for the tuition fees for these kids anymore. So we're going to have it set up so that they pay it themselves and they pay it back over X many years if they start earning 27,000 or whatever it is more a year. 27,000 or more a year, right? So what that was part of was Tony Blair wanted to have over 50% of young people going to university, a milestone that was reached a few years ago. And that's a good thing. But what's happened as well is the Tories have said that these universities can't put up tuition fees. And the university said, okay, we won't put up tuition fees, but can you give us some more money? Because it actually costs more than £10,500 a year or whatever the tuition fees is for each particular course. It costs us more than that to run this course, especially scientific, engineering kind of courses that do cost a lot more than, say, doing an English course or politics like I did. The government said, no, we're not giving you any more extra money to top up. You can't increase the tuition fees, and we're not going to give you any more money. So for a lot of British students, these universities were making a loss on every single British student they had that was doing a physics degree, right? And so they were relying very much on international students paying way over the odds to come here to our prestige universities. And something the Tories did was they actually took off the cap on how many people from other countries could come over here to study at university, and the university sector kind of exploded because lots and lots of foreign students, especially from places like China, were coming over to study and get their qualification. Now Labour and the Tories started this. They started capping the numbers of foreign students that could come over. So the universities are left scratching their heads, going, well, we can't put up the tuition fees. You're not going to give us any more money, and you're capping the number of foreign students who come over and effectively subsidise the domestic students. Yeah. So universities rely heavily on students coming from other countries for their revenue. Cutting them off risks funding crises, closures, and a brain drain, all in pursuit of right-wing polling bump. And this is also Brexit 2.0 in a way. It accepts the Brexiteer myth that Britain is overrun and losing control. And that, who's to blame? Migrants. They're not, but this is what they want you to think. It validates the idea that legal migration is a problem. When it's not, it is a solution to a problem. The problem is that people in the UK, there's a lot more older people than there are younger people. So every year, for native British people, domestic British people, coming online after finishing university, age of 21, there are fewer of them than there are of older people who need looking after. And each year, that's going to get worse and worse. That's why we need migration. We need people coming into the country to fill those skills gaps and to look after the elderly, but not just those, but for collecting fruit, for working in construction, for doing these sector jobs, hospitality, of which there are lots of vacancies. I would argue that, yeah, okay, if it's a particular sector that is overrun already, then we're not going to have people coming over to do that job. And I think that's the case. I'd like you to name all the people that you know who run YouTube channels, who came over from Nigeria to run a YouTube channel in the UK, because that sector was really calling out for more people to come from other countries to do that job. No one? No one? Not a single person doing that job in this particular sector of which I work? Oh, it's interesting. It's almost as though people come over here to do specific jobs because they're sponsored by a company, and that's the way the situation is. That's the way it's been set up for quite a long time now. That's the way it's set up in other countries. A lot of the time, if you want to go and live in another country, you've got to be sponsored by a company, you've got to have a job, or they won't let you in. And this idea that migrants are to blame for everything, it's not the way Labour should be going. Yeah, and this is taking aim away from the real culprits, the exploitative system, the 0-hour contracts, underpays workers, and defunds public services. That's the problem we've got. We've got rich people who don't want to pay a decent wage to their workers. And it also sends out this message to the world, doesn't it? You're not welcome. The UK is viewed as increasingly insular post-Brexit. This white paper signals that even skilled, law-abiding, fluent English-speaking migrants aren't wanted. It'll deter investment, innovation, and international partnerships, further isolating Britain just when global cooperation is needed most. Why should we be reliant on Saudi Arabia for our energy? Why should we be reliant on America for our economy surviving and not going into recession? I just don't understand why we can't build this stuff ourselves by inviting people over, making them feel welcome, giving them decent jobs at a decent salary. Don't undercut the British workers who want to do those same jobs. Pay a living wage, and that should be mandated by government policy. The fact it isn't is mind-blowing. But also, and I think this is like something that Labour haven't really taken on board, is they're alienating their own core voters, especially the young and people living in urban areas. Labour's language and policy shift will alienate many of their core constituents. Not that they've not already alienated loads of people, including myself, by going after the LGBT community. But like the language and the policy shift goes after the young, educated, university educated, urban, progressive, multi-ethnic voters. These people aren't just morally opposed to this kind of rhetoric. They know that it's a bad economics. It's lazy politics. It's a bad idea morally, but also it's a bad idea economically. It's a bad economic idea. And these people aren't just morally opposed to this kind of rhetoric. They'll look at it and go, Labour aren't delivering what I want them to deliver. And they'll vote for the Greens or the Lib Dems or just not at all. It's not going to get Labour voters feeling passionately about wanting to vote for them. They've gone after the disabled. They've gone after trans people. Now they're going after migrants in a way that it looks like a continuation of Tory austerity to all of us sort of watching from the sidelines going, what the fuck are you doing, Labour? What the fuck are you doing? Like, seriously, have you lost your fucking mind? Anyway, this is Labour's gamble. They're sacrificing principle for polls. So Starmer is betting that mimicking the right on immigration will win back reform curious voters in key marginal seats. But the risk is enormous. It alienates progressive voters who are their core, who are their activists. They're sacrificing. This is the same thing they did with Brexit under the last leader. They sacrificed activists in pursuit of voters. And that is always a mistake, because every activist you have is worth 100 votes, because they will get out and spread your message. It might be worth 1,000 votes. You want to keep hold of your activists. They are the people. They are the berserkers of your party, running out ahead of everything else, doing the job that needs to be done. And yet they make people who will naturally vote Labour. I was a Labour member until 2017, when Labour instituted a 3-line whip to activate Article 50 without any amendments, any provisos, any safeguards to protect EU citizens living here or British citizens living in the EU. Knowing that activating that fucking thing and pulling us out of the EU would make the poorest people in this country even poorer. Curtail the horizons of everyone who wasn't born into money, which is the vast majority of the population. Brexit for the 1%. It really, really was. He's doing this. Starmer's doing this. He's alienating progressive voters, alienating their activists, handing legitimacy to Farage, the UKippers, the Brexiters, the refuckers, and they're causing irreparable damage to Labour, to its moral compass, pulling the Overton window in a direction away from the fundamentals of their own party. How mad is that? Or for a polling bounce that may never come. This is too much of a gamble. You're gambling with people's lives, and it's wrong. This policy isn't immigration, it's about exploitation. The UK doesn't have a migrant problem. Stop saying that it does. It has a bosses problem. Employers underpaying staff, avoiding training, not putting in reasonable adjustments for British people who want to work, dodging regulations, calling for a taking away of health and safety. These people who don't want minorities working for them, and they make it very difficult for people coming from minorities to work for them. They don't want to make the reasonable adjustments. All they care about is their bottom line. They don't care about giving people a living wage. All they care about is their bottom line. Cracking down on migrants rather than employers is like blaming the lifeboat for the sinking ship. This policy lets the actual culprits, exploitative corporations, and decades of Tory neglect off the hook. And it's like, it's pushing the Tory flagship policy further along. I mean, you thought it was bad sending people to Rwanda. Yes, it was. But just as bad is sending people back to war zones because their kids can't speak English up to an A-level standard. This is a manufactured crisis and a manipulated narrative. Most of the public thinks that illegal immigration is the majority of all migration, and it is not. It's not even close. But Labour isn't correcting the record. They aren't fighting back against the flagship policy of the right wing. That's what they should be doing. Like what they should have been doing against Brexit. They should have been joining our fucking marches in fucking London. Not saying to us, when I'm sitting there organising a march in Manchester during the Tory party conference, sitting there saying we don't want to see a single EU flag at our march. They don't want to see a single EU flag in a march against the Tories. They don't want to see a single flag which signifies that the Tories' flagship policy of Brexit, and in the 2019 conference season, their slogan was "Get Brexit Done," and Labour did not want, because of the leadership and because of the people in the trade unions who thought Brexit was a great idea, they didn't want to see a single EU flag at their march. I was asked straight up by the deputy mayor and the chief of police of Greater Manchester, said to me, "Why don't you, with your EU march, pro-EU march, why don't you team up with the Labour march, with the trade unions and stuff, and just have one big march? And then you can peel away to your own rally and they can go to their rally." And I was like, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And for some reason, the Labour leadership were like, nope, can't have that. Can't have anyone holding a flag which literally stands in opposition to the stated Tory flagship policy of Get Brexit Done. What's the Tory flagship policy now? Demonise immigrants. Demonise asylum seekers. Send them to Rwanda. Stop the boats. You know how you can stop the boats tomorrow? Build a processing centre in Calais. Do a deal with the French. Anyone coming over on a boat, take them back to the processing centre. Be cheaper than keeping people in hotels for 7 years. Well, they can't work. This is the Labour are choosing to ride a wave of misinformation rather than doing their job, which should be to debunk it. Coming up with ways of saying, no, this is not true. They're going along with the Tory refuck rhetoric. Exactly the same mistake that they were punished for in 2019. And they're thinking this is going to work this time. What's the definition of madness? Trying something, the same thing again and again and again and expecting a different result. When are Labour going to fucking learn? It's cowardice dressed up as pragmatism. And this rebranding of Britishness, who gets to belong by demanding integration via English tests and moral hurdles. Labour's pushing a narrow nationalist view of what being British means. So are you not British if you speak Welsh? Are you not British if you speak Scots? I think you are. We had a prime minister, David Lloyd George, back in the 1910s. His second language was English. His second language, ladies and gentlemen. Were we more progressive over 110 years ago? Don't know, maybe. His first language was Welsh, by the way. A language that the English tried to wipe out. They weren't successful. 17 months, power to the people with Graham Price. Woo! Thank you so much, mate. That is really fucking awesome. I'm going to say a big welcome. You are awesome. To Graham Price there for being a member for 17 months. Keep up the good work, says Graham. Yes, I will. I will, Graham. Spelt correctly. And then, Skylar says, when employers pull up wages by not much, they simultaneously cut hours and jobs, yet workers are exhorted by this job centres to increase the hours as though their workers had a say in it. Yeah, exactly. Martin says, when I got this car, I went out the way to find someone that had EU plates just to annoy dickheads. Leapshin, what's the point of having marches and demonstrations when the Labour Party just isn't interested in the voice of the people? Yeah, well, it's not just the voice of the people, Leapshin. It's just an easy win. Like, it's their job to oppose, especially when they're in opposition. I mean, even so more now, they're in government, I guess. But they're to oppose what the Tories want to do, not to further what they want to do. You were supposed to defeat the Sith, not join them. Ugh! Anyway, so yeah, it's frustrating to say the least. The rebranding of Britishness, Labour pushing a narrow nationalist vision of what being British means. This isn't about values. This is about exclusion. This is about a state-sanctioned message that says you can work here, but you'll never be one of us, which is a dangerous way to go, especially for what I would like to see. I would like to see global Britain. That's what I want to see. I want Britain that is at home in the European Union and in NATO and in the United Nations and in the other 50 different transnational entities that we are a part of. Yeah, reach out, put those fingers in all those pies. The more we reach out around the world, the better off we are. Like I say, going after migrants makes no moral sense, but it also makes no economic sense either. If Labour are serious about growing the economy, they have to bite the bullet on this and explain to people that actually migration's a good thing, thank you very much. Here's all the boss things that it's done. Here's all the boss things that it's achieved. But yeah, the return of British jobs for British workers, but without the jobs is just madness. We've been here before. Gordon Brown tried it. Theresa May did with the fucking go-home vans. Every time we end in the same place. Fewer workers, worse services, angrier voters who are going to punish the incumbent party who are in charge of making their life demonstrably worse. Promising to train homegrown workers by cutting funds and further delaying post-Brexit reform is political theatre with no script. This war on wages is just, it is a war on wages disguised as patriotism. By blaming migrants for undercutting wages, Labour's framing obscures the role of weak unions, deregulation and austerity. The previous leader of Labour did say in an interview with The Independent that foreigners were coming here and taking our jobs, undercutting British workers. We've got to stop people coming from other countries, from around the EU, he said, and undercutting British workers, furthering this lie, this narrative that this is a problem of the actual people coming here, when it's not. It's a problem of the employers, the bosses, the corporations, the ones who don't pay any tax, like Starbucks and Google. How you doing, Google Daddy? You want higher wages? Empower unions, fund education, reform labour laws. But this policy dodges all that hard work in favour of a cheap scapegoat that's not even going to work. By blaming the migrants for undercutting wages. Like Labour's framing obscures the role of weak unions, deregulation, and austerity. All Tory policies should be going after these Tory policies with a bloody steak knife. The far right doesn't say thank you. It says more, please. It's a really, really important point. The Tories couldn't out UKIP, in the same way that Labour can't out refuck. They just fucking can't. Giving in to anti-migrant rhetoric never pacifies the far right. It just emboldens them. They just want more. They're like, oh yeah, we got this far, more of it. My friends in Liverpool who are mixed race or black or Asian, who have never suffered overt racism. Obviously, they've suffered institutional racism and covert racism, but open racism of someone in the pub saying, oh, you, go back where you came from. Never happened until they were emboldened by the Brexit vote, which gave the racists a green fucking card, a green light to be as racist as they wanted. Overtly racist. You will never pacify them. You just make them worse. Don't feed the monster. Nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. Like what? You think you're going to give the aliens some fucking cake? Go on, get. Oh, there's an alien running around on the spaceship killing everyone. Maybe we should give it cake. Hey? That'll stop it. Maybe if we sacrifice some of the crew to the alien will stop eating the rest of us. Because, we won't get hungry tomorrow. Holy shit. Like, how thick do you have to be? UK Medc, thank you very much for, or UK Medic, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. My granddad was a Labour member for 40 years and left. He swears that this Labour is just a rebrand of the militant tendency. Militant! It's about as far from militant as possible. Well, militant, like, obviously we had that in Liverpool with Derek Hatton, who was just corrupt. I mean, they wanted to make a stand against the Thatcher government, which is noble. But in the same way, they were corrupt arseholes, not all of them, but a lot of them were, who took out massive loans from Japanese banks that led to Liverpool having the highest council tax in the country for several decades after they were kicked out of office. Thank you very much for the super chat, UK Medc. Yeah, so, I mean, all you're doing is feeding the monster. Stop feeding the monster, Labour. Today it's English tests. Tomorrow it's cultural conformity. After that, what? Deportations for political speech. You're seeing that already in America. The lesson from Europe and the US is clear. Appeasement only accelerates the descent. Oh, actually, the descent as in going down, as in the descent into hell. So what's the alternative? Well, real control, real compassion. Reform doesn't have to mean reform. No, I don't mean the party. I mean, I call them refuck to differentiate from the word reform. I mean, like, reform of the system doesn't have to mean cruelty. Labour could champion a fair immigration system that includes worker protections, employer accountability, and international cooperation. That means expanding safe routes for refugees, but also making it clear to people the difference between refugees and foreign workers. Investing in education, rebuilding the asylum system, and pushing back against xenophobia, and instead of giving it a bloody ministerial platform. And this really is a fight for the soul of Labour. Like, what is Labour supposed to stand for? They've gone after the trans people. They've gone after the disabled people. Now they're going after the immigrants. Is this supposed to be the party of hope or fear? I mean, it's a scapegoating. It's scapegoating. Isn't this supposed to be the party of solidarity? How are they doing this to the natural voter base who would traditionally want people to come from other places? Feel like it enriches our nation in more ways than one, not just culturally, but economically as well. What do we want? Do we want evidence-based reforms, or do we want tabloid-induced panic? Do we want, oh shit, we've had these really bad results in the local elections, let's turn into a neo-Nazi party, that'll work. Starmer's white paper tells us where it stands. It tells us where he stands, where the party stands at the moment, and Yvette Cooper, as Home Secretary, stands. The question is, who in the party in the country is going to fight back? And I'm hoping that there are going to be Labour MPs, just like there's Labour MPs fighting back against disability PIP cuts, fighting back against Labour's rhetoric about trans people. I'm hoping there's going to be Labour MPs who fight back, but there's not enough at the moment. We really need over 100 Labour MPs to say no, fuck off, loudly and proudly. Thank you very much to Ori. Appeasing the fascists ended so well last time, doesn't it? Yeah. Don't feed the monster. Starve the monster. Nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. So, speak up. Write to your MP. I know I always say this, but it is important that we write to our MPs to make sure they know that people are pissed off about this and we're not just going along with it. Challenge the narrative and show solidarity with migrants. Share stories of people behind the statistics. And, remind everyone that you speak to, this country was built by immigrants. In fact, this part of this country, we are the United Kingdom, but this part that I live in is Angleland. Angleland. It's not named after the natives, mate. It's named Angleland, after the Angles, who came from northern Germany, mate. The Angles and the Saxons. If you check on a map, Saxony is not in England. Who came after 1066? The Normans. Yeah, the Normans. French Vikings. These were people who could trace their ancestry back to Scandinavia, who lived in France. And then they came over to England and said, we're in charge now. Scotland. Lovely place. Beautiful place. Where did the Scots come from? Ireland. Didn't come from Scotland. The area known as Scotland. I think it was Hiberia. It was Caledonia, sorry. Caledonia to the Romans. They came from Hiberia, which was Ireland, to the Romans. St. Patrick came from Wales. St. George came from fucking Turkey. He never actually came to the UK, but he's still our patron saint. Our national dish is chicken tikka masala, a dish that was invented in Britain by someone from the Indian subcontinent. I'm sorry, but the idea that immigration hasn't made our country what it is absolute nonsense. It's bullshit, and it needs to be called out time and time again. If you live in England, you live in a country literally named Land of the Foreigners. Land of the people who weren't born here. That's the name of your country. Wake up. Smell the coffee. Do what's right. And also, do what is best for our economy. Because while I cringe at seeing Starmer bend over backwards to the likes of Donald Trump in order to secure a trade deal, I understand why he's doing that. Because if our economy takes any further knocks, or any knocks at all, the people who suffer are not the billionaires. They make more money. We see this time and time again. The billionaires did all right after the credit crunch. They did fine, mate. They were dandy. They were bailed out by the government. They were fine during COVID. It was the small businesses. It was the people who lost their jobs because they were working for fucking Weatherspoons. They were the people who were affected by COVID. Not just the disease, but the fact that everything was shut down. The rich weren't. In fact, the billionaires of the world doubled their profits during COVID. Doubled their earnings. Doubled the amount they are worth in just a couple of years. They did all right. They're the problem. not people coming here and working. We need to shout that from the highest towers of the land. If we let the Faragists win this framing war, the damage won't just stop at the border. It will be evident and clear inside every school, every hospital, and every home that doesn't get built. Simple as that. George, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. My MP is Danny Kruger. I'm sorry to hear that. But you can still annoy them by writing to them. Moya says, just wrote to my MP saying Labour seems to appeasing right-wing rhetoric rather than following democratic social principles. Couldn't agree more. Alice says, Graham's absolutely right. Everyone's a migrant. Yeah, my ancestry is from Ireland. It's why I'm ginger. It's why I'm ginger. Well, Ireland and Wales. Hughes is a Welsh name. It came from Northwest Wales. So that's my ancestry. You know, my forebears moved around, and before then, we all came from Africa in successive waves of migration. So that we Europeans decided to, get down and dirty with the Neanderthals. So there's a certain amount of DNA in Europeans that's actually Neanderthal DNA that people from Africa, the pure humans, don't have. We're the mongrels. Us Europeans, we're the ones who interbred with a different species. Lovely. Moving on. Captain Coconut, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. What are your thoughts on Trump's attempt to remove habeas corpus? I personally think if he gets away with it, it's the end of US democracy. I did a whole show on that yesterday, the Sunday service on habeas corpus and what it'll mean if it's suspended in the US, what it is, and why it's absolutely intrinsic to the American, any democratic system. Unfortunately, it was only a 40-minute show. It was a short show because it was a bit late getting started, and also I had to end it at 9:45 because I had to shunt everyone over to the premiere of Political X's Sunday Roast show. But so I didn't really get into it as meatily as I would have liked to, Captain Coconut. But it is the end of democracy because it'll mean that Trump can arrest anyone he doesn't like. And it won't stop at foreign students who have written a nasty blog post about Trump. It'll start arresting. We're seeing judges being arrested. We're seeing mayors being arrested. We're seeing members of the House of Representatives being arrested in America already. Now, at least they're getting due process. If Trump can take that due process away, what's going to stop him? What is going to stop him? No one. That too. So yeah, push back while you can. Push back while you can. What time is it? Oh, I've gone half an hour over time. I know Leapshin will flip out if I don't do the papers. So let's very, very quickly do the papers. And then I'll let you get on with your day. So first of all, going to the Mirror. Oh, it's like looking in a mirror. There we go. We've got TV winners. Nafessa Williams, Vicky Patterson, Moira. I don't know how any of these people are. Danny Dyer won something good. Weight loss jabs cuts cancer risk. Drug reduce threat by half and help even thin people. Jabs for weight loss could slash the risk of cancer by nearly half. That is insane. Is there nothing they can't do? It is a bit of a miracle product, this Ozempic. Oh, welcome. You're awesome. Thank you. This Ozempic and the other weight loss jabs, they do seem like they're doing a lot of good at the moment. And in a way that stuff like Weight Watchers, I always felt it was a con because it always felt like it was trying to get you to use willpower alone to stop you from being hungry. And being hungry is a absolute primal feeling. It's one of your senses. We talk about the five senses with taste and sound and hearing and sight. Hunger, thirst, they are senses. You feel hungry, and to go without food when you are hungry is torture. It is actual torture. Taken from someone who's in solitary confinement for 6 days in Congo without any food. It's not very pleasant, I have to say. I laugh about it now, but Jesus Christ, it's not fun. And being able to stop that pang of hunger. That's all we need to do. That's simply it. Stop it, and people will stop eating as much. And this idea that you're supposed to have the willpower to fight back against what? The pain of hunger? The torture of being hungry? Oh, you should have more willpower. Said by people who have very, very, very fast metabolisms and don't get fat no matter how much cake they eat. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that. There you go. So, and one angry pagan says, not just Europeans, Graham. Don't forget the Neanderthals went east and separate Homo species, Denisovians also interbred with Homo sapiens in Asia. Yep. And Homo erectus as well, I think. I don't know. It was a long time ago. I can barely remember. Barely remember last week. I'm getting old in my old age. Captain Coconuts. There'll always be alternatives. There are Greens and independents. We never know. Their policies may sway us. Indeed. Suspension of habeas corpus will remove due process, jeopardizing all Americans, not just immigrants. Yeah, Scarlett, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And they're saying they can do it if there's an invasion. And they're saying, oh, the number of immigrants coming in constitutes an invasion. And this is where the Constitution needs tightening up, because the Constitution is a leaky ship. The Constitution is like the fucking Bible. You can kind of interpret it any way you wish. And people do. And people really, really do. Back to the papers. The I here. Migrants must earn right to stay in the UK and improve their English and New Labour crackdown. We've already spoken about that. The Malteser, the Star newspaper here, still obsessed with the with push-up bras and the weather. We've got Zelensky ready to meet Putin for peace talks in Istanbul. So yeah, calling Putin's bluff, because Putin doesn't want to end the war, and they're making it quite obvious. And I think that Zelensky and Macron and Starmer and others have played a bit of a blinder, for, getting Trump on side without him actually realising it, because he's an idiot. Migrants must earn their right to remain. This is what we were talking about this morning, which I think is a mistake. Weight loss jabs help body destroy cancer cells, which is fantastic news. And then Billie Piper at the BAFTAs, where she lost. So woman loses BAFTA. Oh my God, there's no royals on the front cover of the newspapers yet. What's going on? Half risk of cancer, which is remarkable. Tories say Starmer is pretending to be tough with new immigration crackdown. Migrants must wait 10 years to become British. Immigrants will have to wait 10 years before becoming British under a crackdown being unveiled today. I don't know how that helps anything or anyone. I just don't know. I've never known anything like it. Tom Kerridge on Britain's restaurant crisis, which is fueled by Brexit and xenophobia. Starmer to toughen migration rules. Read that one already. Toby Jones Centre and Monica Dolan join the real Alan Bates as he presents it with a limited drama BAFTA for Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. So that's nice. No royals on the front cover of this paper. Shit, no. Maybe that's a royal wearing some flippers at the top. Let's meet face to face. Zelensky urges Putin. I'd love that to happen. Do it. Boost our pay or risk new strikes, say nurses. Okay. Well, I'm sure that Labour will go into negotiations over that. We've got the back page of the Daily Mail for some reason. Don't know why that's happening. We've got the Daily Telegraph here and Billie Piper. Labour's daffy plan to stop the rain in Wales. What? I made 20k on OnlyFans and hated it. Okay, move to YouTube. Talk about politics. Oh, hang on. Starmer to shut ECHR migrant loophole. This is something that I didn't mention, actually. This is really worrying. They want to make it so that that people they call migrants aren't covered by the European Court of Human Rights when it comes to deportations. It's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. It's not a good sign that Labour are going down, because again, it's feeding red meat to the monster instead of killing the monster, which is what we need to do. British ICC chief used Gaza to silence sexual assault accused. The British prosecutors seeking the arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu tried to silence a woman by accusing him of sexual assault by citing the plight of Palestinians. It's been claimed. This is about Karim Khan, QC. I don't know enough about this story to get into it. I'm just reading the headline. Anfield wrapped. Labour fans turn on defector Trent. This is about Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is moving to another club, which he's perfectly okay to do, as far as I'm concerned. I don't care. Alexander Armstrong. No, Alexander Arnold. I just get them mixed up because there's a comedian, isn't there? And then Trump tariff hastens China's push to cut foreign parts from supply chains. Washington claims talk progress. Cheese self-sufficiency drive speeds up, and chemicals and chips affected. Don't put chemicals in your chips. That's not great. And the Metro here hopes for Ukraine war breakthrough. There you go. I'll face Putin to get peace. Quite interesting, that. And then that's it. Oh my god. Am I missing something here? Is there literally? I mean, this doesn't include the sun, does it? But it does look like. Hang on, if I zoom in. Oh no. There you go. Right, see here. Yeah, that's a royal. There you go. So we've got a royal on the front cover. Thank God. Whew. I thought we almost had an entire paper review without a picture of the family that lives at number 42 that we're absolutely fucking weirdly obsessed with. You know, the family that we peer over the garden fence wearing night vision goggles. Like that's a normal thing to do, to watch the kids in the paddling pool, because that's a normal thing to do. So I was just really, really worried then for a moment that we could have had a full slate of the front pages of newspapers without a picture of somebody in that family. But thankfully, the Express came to our aid there with a tiny little picture of Princess Catherine, because you know that's great. You know, you've got to show at least a tiny little picture of Princess Catherine or one of the members of the family, or the world will come to an end, because we've got to be obsessed with them in a creepy, weird way, in a really, really creepy, weird way. Like someone being obsessed with clowns. People died for the vote, says Mr. Tisk 27. I'm only 2 generations on from a workhouse child. I have an amazing life and career. What not have happened? Had Labour, not for Labour, 3 generations in fact, but the workhouse child knew my dad and his grandchild. Yeah, Labour don't get the credit that they deserve for a lot of the things, the social progress that they brought about. But they don't get it most of the time because they don't ask for it. They assume people are just going to know it by osmosis or something. And then they do stuff to soil their record. They do stuff to soil their record time and time again. They make the same mistakes time and time again. And I think this bold strategy against migrants is a trap. I think what they should be doing is going hard against refuck and explain to people that we need migrants and that migration is a good thing and here's why. And then say, look, we're doing things to stop illegal migration, but legal migration is great. Here's a lot of good things that we've got through legal migration. And here's the things we're going to do to stop the boats, which is we're going to have a new deal with the French to take people back to France to the processing centre that we build in Calais at a much cheaper cost than the £1 billion we spend every year housing migrants, housing asylum seekers in hotels while they're not allowed to work. That's our stupid system. And how about the people who are here now, asylum seekers waiting to go to court and have their day in court and, you know, plead their case? How about we make it so they can work in the meantime? That would help our economy. That would help them. It would help everyone. The only people it wouldn't help is the hotel owners, who are absolutely raking it in through taxpayers' money, paying for the hotel to keep the asylum seekers in. A lot of people around our ways understand missed TSK 27. Our grandparents and parents had to fight for their rights. Yeah. Joanna says, okay, I can't have those weight loss pens. One of the side effects can be depression. Depression on depression is probably not a good thing, says Joanna. Yeah, I can totally understand that, Joanna. And yeah, it's one of those things. Like I'm going to be doing, what's it called? Titration. I always want to say triage, but that's when there's like a disaster and you have to go to certain people first. And when I go through titration for my ADHD medication, I will have to take like a little bit to see what effect it has on me. Same with HRT, same with a lot of things where you're messing around with the chemical balance of your body. You have to see how it works for you. While it's one of its side effects is depression for some people, it might not be a side effect for you, but it might be, in which case you need to know that and stop it if it gets to that point. And this is why we need structured time with our GPs, with specialized nurses, to go through that titration process, because something that works wonderfully for one person doesn't work wonderfully for another person. And this is what winds me up when people pick on their particular thing that worked. I've talked about this before, but like, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to get off heroin. There's more than one way to stop smoking. There's more than one way to lose weight. And there's more than one type of prophylactic you can take against malaria. Try them. People take Lariam and then they have nightmares, and they tell everyone else not to ever take Lariam because it fucked them up. But it might not fuck up another person. I took doxycycline, which was fine. I didn't get any nightmares, but I had to take it every day. Sometimes I forgot. Also, you have to take it sitting up, as I learned, because I'll get to going to bedtime or going to sleep time, and I'll go, oh shit, I haven't taken my pill today. So I'd have to take my pill just before I went to bed, and you're not supposed to take it lying down. And what it did, it created ulcers in my esophagus and made it very, very difficult to eat. It like closed up my throat, and swallowing was like an absolute pain. And it was a side effect from the anti-malarials I was taking because I wasn't taking them correctly. No effects without side effects, but I'm of the opinion that you should give things a go, and if they don't work, stop it, and try something else. But that has to be done in a safe environment, and I don't know if the way that the NHS is at the moment, after having been defunded for a very long time under the Tories, I don't know if the support is there that you need to be able to suss this shit out with the help of a medical professional. So, yeah. If in a perfect world, we could all go through titration and make sure that the hormone replacement therapy or the ADHD medication or the medication we're taking for heavy periods or whatever it is, works and doesn't have those side effects, and make sure that it does have those side effects. There needs to be things put in place to help you. And I don't know if those things are in place at the moment. So yeah, I'm a bit of an idealist, but yeah, my attitude towards medicine is kind of like, don't knock it till you tried it, and yeah, it doesn't work for everyone. Some people will have side effects. They will. It's just a natural thing. And we're all different, thank God. Because if we weren't all different, then a single virus would wipe all of us out, because we wouldn't have variations in our DNA, in our immune systems, in the chemical processes and the structures of our brains. That means that some of us, even in a virus that kills out 99% of the population, some of us will survive to parent the next generation. George, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Starmer and his Tory v-fuck tribute party. It does feel a lot like that, doesn't it, George? Yeah, write to your Labour MP. Write to your Labour MP. Get them on board. Tell them to get the head out of their arse. Tell them to stop picking on disabled people. Tell them to stop picking on trans people. Tell them to stop picking on immigrants. This is lazy politics. Stupid, economically illiterate, lazy politics. So there you go. When Labour said, not for the many, not for the few, for the many. Is that what they said? For the many, not for the few. Yeah. So did they mean like, when they said few, did they mean like minorities? Worth bearing in mind. Some slogans don't really hit the way that you want them to. I want the few to mean the rich, but it doesn't have to. So anyway, I'm heading off now. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll be back at 9 o'clock tonight for stateside, where unfortunately we're going to have to talk about Donald Trump's latest bullshit. I was happy to have a whole episode here where I barely mentioned his name or made reference to him. That was quite refreshing, wasn't it? Where we talked about real politics rather than the absolute shit show, clown show, screaming monkey clown claw going off a cliff on fire. That is the Trump presidency. But we will be discussing that, me and Mikey, tonight at 9 o'clock British summertime. So hopefully we'll see you then. And if not, I'll see you tomorrow morning for another morning brew at 9 o'clock. Please spread the word about this channel if you enjoy it. There is always the option to join the channel and get a little rose next to your name, like One Angry Pagan, Martin, Captain Coconut, etc. And if you want one of those little roses next to your name and your name to come up on the credits, all you need to do is join the channel, and it'll be so. And if you do one of that or not, hit the like button. That went too fast, didn't it? Hit the like button, click, and on the way out, and that really helps us out with the algorithm. It doesn't cost you anything. Just a moment of your time. Give it a thumb up. Hit the thumb. Hit the thumb. Hit the thumb. Sounds like going hitchhiking, doesn't it? What are you doing? I'm going to hit the thumb. You're going to get to London for free. Okay, so thanks so much for watching, and thanks for all your lovely messages. Thanks for the super chats. Really kind of you. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.